Hey there, folks. This is Mr. Shick. We're going to show you how to make a square tessellation here today. These are the materials you're going to need, along with a little bit of tape. You'll need tape, scissors. You'll need one of these squares cut out. You should cut it right along the edges of the black lines there. You kind of want to cut that black line in half, try and be accurate. If you have something to write with, that can sort of help just a little bit, but it's not a big deal. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing you're going to want to do is we're going to make sure that we understand how the square fits on here. The square corners line up with the black dots. If you pick any one of the four corner black dots, it should line up nice and perfect with the corners, just like so. What I recommend you do is grab yourself some sort of a colored highlighter. I got a blue one here. What I'm going to do on my blue highlighter is I'm going to mark the corners, just the corners of the original square that I have. The reason I'm putting little dots in those corners of blue right there is I want to make sure I don't cut those off. If you cut those corners off, you're going to run into some problems. So here's what we'll do. We're going to go ahead and dive in. You can draw on the edge of your shape something to cut out before we try and tape it back on to create a tessellating shape, or you can just kind of dive in with scissors. I recommend just dive in with the scissors. We put the little blue on the corners here because you don't want to cut the blue off. When you dive into your shape, we're going to cut something out of one side. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to make kind of a rounded little domey looking sort of shape. Don't cut off the blue corners. Can't say it enough. I want to make sure that I dive into a side, come back out the same side. Don't cut down here. You want to keep those original blue corners. What we're going to do is we're going to take this little bump that I cut out of this side, or this hole. It's going to go over here to the other side, and we use the lines on there to tape it onto the other side, just like so. I highly recommend you use a little small piece of tape, just a tiny piece of tape. It's usually best to put the tape on the little piece first, the thing that you cut off. I'm going to tape that on there. That's going to go and line up these lines just like so, and tape this bad boy on here. Perfect. It also helps if you take another small little piece of tape, put one on the back side. We're going to want to make sure this isn't moving around, doesn't come apart on us when we go to tessellate. Escher would be proud of us. So what we've done is we've cut something out of one side and we've taped it over here on the other. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to cut something a little different out of here. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. I'm just going to dive in down here on the bottom, cut something off the bottom side. What I cut out of here is going to go up here onto the other. So we're going to just kind of, let's see, I'll make something that looks a little bit trapezoidal, I think. Maybe a little bit weird. We'll see. Doesn't matter. We're just experimenting here. So here's my original shape. What I cut out of the bottom right here, we're going to do a translation or a slide. I'm going to take those original three lines that you see. So it's sliding directly across. We're going to tape it on there. Take myself a little tiny piece of tape. It usually works best if you take the tape, put it on the small piece that you cut out first. It's easier to manage that way. Tape that bad boy right on there. So we try and get those lines to line up. I'm going to take a little piece of tape, put it on the back side as well. I have just created a tessellating shape. What works really nice about this, let's see, I cut it out this way originally. What works really nice about this is the hole on this side matches up perfectly with this bump. The hole here matches up perfectly with this bump. To show you how tessellation works, in essence, I'm going to go ahead and start tracing. We're going to line up those black dots with my original shape, just like so. I'm going to take this purple pen because we're just kind of trying to experiment here a little bit and show you how this works. I'm going to trace around the outside of my shape, trying to keep those dots lined up originally with the corners that we started with. And I have something. I don't know what it is. You know, a lot of people look at this and go, oh, what does that look like to you? Let's see, that maybe might be like a bouquet of flowers. Maybe it's an elephant. There's his ears and there's his elephant nose. Maybe there's some sort of a bird or a face. There's like a nose of an animal right here. And then there's his front leg, his back leg. I think I see a squirrel. I see the head and the face of a squirrel, a leg and a tail. It's up to you. You get to decide. So once you get this thing traced once, the tendency is people do this. They try and take the hole and they try and fit it perfectly into the bump and the hole together. That's actually not a very good plan. What I'm going to do is I'm purposely going to switch colors so you can see. I'm going to make sure that regardless of how this matches up over here, because it won't matter, I'm going to make sure that black dot lines up with that corner, that black dot with that corner, and I'm not going to try and match up the other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take another color pen here. Now, you don't have to do a different color. I'm only doing it just to emphasize to you that when we go to trace, you don't want to retrace the side that's already done. I only traced those three sides you see in pink. I didn't retrace this one, okay? That is important that you try not to do that. You will be tempted to do it, but you don't want to because it's not necessary. Then what I'm going to do is come down here underneath. I'm going to try and line up these black dots with the original shape. Make sure you get them on there. That's important that that guy lines up perfectly, just like so. When I go to trace this, I'm going to need to trace three sides of it, not the one up there that I've already done that's in purple. And just like that. So I've done another different color down here on this one. Last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and grab, I think I have a nice little purple kind of a marker. This is a little different thickness than the other, so you can see. You'll be tempted to want to try and get this to match up correctly. If you do that, this corner might be off down in the corner. So I'm going to make sure I line up that black dot right there, that black dot, and this black dot. When I go to trace now, it's going to look like this, and I have a tessellating shape. The bare minimum for the square is to do this 12 times, and afterwards you need to color and design in your tessellation with whatever you think that it is. There's some extra credit possibilities. If you want to fill in the edges all the way around the outside original 12 on the edge of the paper and cover the entire paper, it can get you some points. Also, you'll notice these black dots right here. The black dots are sort of a pain. They show up in your artwork. What you can do is you can do your art on this side of the paper right over here. It's tough to see those black dots, but if you take another sheet of white paper and you slip it underneath, it'll give us some contrast, and those black dots will be easier to see. I can see those dots just a hair through the paper now, and it'll be easier. You can do your artwork on this side. So if you do it on the side without the dots, by far easier to do it on this side, but if you do it on this side, you know, you're good to go as well, but you can get an extra credit point for not having a bunch of these little black dots all through your artwork. So that's the basics of the square tessellation. I hope you enjoyed that. If you get stuck, you're welcome to contact me, and I can try and take you through that again. Well, enjoy there, folks.